Be seated.
How do we consider someone as our enemy? Paano ba tayo nagkakaroon ng kaaway? Kahit sabihin nating ayaw nating magkaroon ng kaaway, minsan may mga pagkakataong hindi natin may iwasan, nagkakaroon tayo ng kaaway. Why? Because the first criteria that would come to our mind whenever we consider someone as our enemy is that that person has hurt us in one way or another. And if that person has hurt us, we may not be wounded physically, but for sure, our hearts have been wounded because of that hurt caused by that person. But why did we get hurt? Why did that person hurt us? There may be a lot of reasons, but we can focus on two things. It is either because of ourselves or because of others. Maaaring kagagawan din natin kung bakit tayo nasaktan at madalas din kagagawan din ng ibang tao kaya tayo nasaktan. Getting hurt may come from ourselves because we may be full of pride. We hurt one another, and in the process, we become enemies because we don't know how to be humble. We hurt one another because we insist on our own opinions. We hurt one another because we highlight our mindsets and we belittle the thoughts of others. Mas magaling lang ako. Mas maganda yung ideya ko. Mas maganda yung iniisip ko. Yung sa iba, walang kwenta. We hurt one another because we only listen to ourselves. We shout at the top of our lungs and we fail to listen to the person right in front of us. And when emotions flare, disagreements happen, resulting to feelings of hurt and contempt and ending with resentment. And as we hurt one another with our words and even with our actions, the more we end up enemies with one another. But there are people who hurt us for seemingly no reason at all. Wala naman tayong ginagawa, pero sinaktan nila tayo. Wala naman tayong ginagawa, pero mainit yung dugo nila sa atin. And sometimes we ourselves are those people who hurt others for seemingly no reason at all. Why? Simply because of envy. Inggit. When we are envious of other people, we feel that they are superior than us. And when we see them as someone who is superior than us, then we treat them as competitors. There will always be bad vibes. Ayaw natin silang makasama, ayaw natin silang makita, ayaw nating makita ni anino nila. Why? Because we feel threatened. And if we look at one another as a threat, for sure, we will consider them as our enemies. Then, why did Jesus challenge us to love our enemies? Simply because He knows our capacity to love. But we must also remember that loving our enemies does not mean passivity. Nasaktan ako nitong taong to, hahayaan ko na lang. Kasi yung sabi ni Jesus. Sinaktan ako nitong taong ito, may ginawa siyang hindi maganda sa akin. Hayaan ko na lang, sige na lang. Tutal yun din naman yung sabi ni Jesus. Pag sinampal ka, ibigay mong kabila. But that is not what Jesus would mean. Loving our enemies does not mean letting those people go away with the wrong things they have done to us. Because love would also demand justice. Whenever we sin, something has been distorted. Whenever we sin, our relationship with others is stained. Justice would also demand that what has been broken must also be restored. Kailangan ding ituwid yung binaluktot. If we consider loving our enemies simply as passivity, then we will also lose the opportunity for them to reform. Hindi natin sila matutulungan na mas gumanda at mas mabuti yung kanilang pagkatao. Loving our enemies will never mean passivity. Because if we truly love our enemies, then we will also find ways and means for them to become better persons. Another thing that we should remember is that whenever we love our enemies, it is also an invitation to look within ourselves. They say that whenever we feel irritable with a certain person, most probably that person is mirroring something that we don't like about ourselves. Wala namang ginagawa yung tao, pero inis na inis tayo. Makita lang natin yung anino, iba na yung kulo ng dugo natin. And most of the time, this is something that we fail to see. We can easily see the fault of others, we can easily judge the actions of others, but we lack the capacity to reflect. We lack the capacity to look within ourselves. We lack the capacity to introspect. We lack the capacity to ask ourselves, what are the things that we need to improve on? Madaling ituro yung pagkakamali ng iba, pero napakahirap aminin ng pagkakamali natin. And the last thing that we should remember, a challenge will never be easy. If it is something easy, then it will never be a challenge. Kapag sinabi sa ating hinahamon kita, pero napakadiri lang sa atin nun, sasabihin natin, easy lang yan. Walang dating. Walang hirap. Mamaniin lang natin. But let us be consoled with the last words of Jesus in our gospel today. Be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. We know that we will never be perfect in terms of not having any flaws. We know we'll never be perfect in terms of not committing any mistakes. But when Jesus says to us to be perfect like our heavenly Father, He desires only one thing: that our actions, our words, our very life will be like our heavenly Father. We can never be perfect basing from our mistakes. We can never be perfect basing from our flaws. But we can be perfect if we pattern our life to our heavenly Father. We can be perfect if we pattern our love like our heavenly Father.